177 in Sims Road at about 3:12 this morning, didn't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and when do you remember telling me?
In summation that I'm guilty, yes.
Of what?
Of murder.
Interrogations are a psychological game, a test of endurance, will, and control. They often stretch for hours, sometimes days, with detectives weaving a deliberate web of pressure, confusion, and subtle manipulation. The goal is simple but elusive: to get the suspect to speak, or better yet, to confess. Most suspects resist. They stall, lie, evade, or ask for lawyers. But in some rare and chilling cases, something different happens. The human mind, under extreme stress, can fracture, causing a suspect to confess or crack in seconds rather than hours. Today, we explore 5 of the fastest police interrogations ever caught on camera. Moments where the walls crumbled almost instantly, sealing the suspect's fate before the first cup of coffee had cooled on the detective's desk. Our first case begins with Raymond Gates, a man whose own words would send him straight to prison almost before the interrogation began. Raymond had been brought in after investigators obtained partial surveillance footage of an assault on a 17-year-old girl. The footage was damning but incomplete. Only parts of the attack were caught on camera. For prosecutors to secure a conviction, they would need to prove beyond doubt that the girl had not given consent. That proof arrived far more quickly than anyone could have imagined. Sitting across from the detectives, Raymond appeared casual, even arrogant. He launched into a rambling account of the night in question, trying, in his mind, to explain what had happened. What followed was a stunning display of self-incrimination. "This girl came back to my house," Raymond began. "She's telling me she wants to lose her virginity, man, like she's ready to do it and everything. Then, right a couple seconds before, she's like, 'I don't know,' and stuff like that. Please tell me yes, everything's cool, she's cool with making out." But then came the fatal line, the one that instantly handed the detectives everything they needed. When she screamed, "Stop! Please don't do this, it hurts so much." At that point, I mean like, "Oh no, stop. I'm already like inside of her, man." He paused. The room fell silent. In that moment, the detectives knew the interrogation was already over. Raymond had, without even realizing it, confessed not just to intercourse, but to proceeding after the girl had screamed for him to stop. The rest of the interview barely mattered. Legally, the statement provided the core element of non-consent the prosecution needed. Raymond Gates was swiftly charged, found guilty, and sentenced to 9 years in prison. His case is a textbook example of how a suspect's own need to justify their actions can override self-preservation, a phenomenon well documented in forensic psychology. The second case, while vastly different, also ended in seconds, though for a very different reason. Quantrill Schwartzlow had been arrested for the brutal strangulation and assault of a young woman. He was known to local police as a volatile individual prone to sudden bursts of aggression. When he was brought into the interrogation room, cameras were rolling, but no one was prepared for what happened next. As the detective began reading Quantrill his rights, Quantrill's eyes darted around the room. His breathing quickened. Before a single substantive question was asked, Quantrill suddenly lunged to his feet and bolted for the door. The camera caught the entire surreal moment, the clatter of his chair, the sudden chaos as officers chased after him. It was over almost as soon as it began. Though he managed to escape the station for a brief window, Quantrill was captured just 4 hours later. His panicked flight was later used in court as evidence of guilt, a clear indicator of consciousness of wrongdoing. To trained interrogators, the attempt was almost predictable. Under acute stress, suspects often swing between fight, flight, and freeze responses. Quantrill's impulsive choice to flee, even while still in handcuffs, was a perfect example of a mind overridden by survival instinct. In contrast to Quantrell's chaos, our next suspect, Ricky Hawthorne, provided a far more direct and jaw-droppingly swift confession. Ricky was brought in after being found covered in blood at the scene of a double homicide. The victims, Lara Kuchar and Tommy Skeens, had been brutally beaten. Lara had been assaulted. Ricky's DNA was found at the scene, but prosecutors still needed a clear narrative tying him to the murders. They didn't have to wait long. As soon as the detectives began questioning him, Ricky simply folded. His first words, "Yeah, I did it." No deflection, no attempt to deny, just an immediate admission of guilt. Incredibly, he then tried, rather pathetically, to backpedal, claiming that while he had beaten the victims, it must have been someone else who had finished them off. "There's 3 more people," he insisted. "I don't know, it was living when I left. Somebody must have came behind me and finished them off. I beat the shit out of them, but it was somebody else." But the forensic evidence told a different story. The injuries that killed Lara and Tommy were entirely consistent with the blows Ricky himself had inflicted. His own admissions sealed his fate, and in record time. Ricky Hawthorne was convicted of first- and second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. His case serves as a chilling reminder of how sheer panic and a flawed understanding of legal strategy can destroy any chance of defense in seconds.
But if Ricky's confession was fast,
The case of Jared Murray may be the most disturbing of all. Jared was a young college student who, without provocation, shot his friend Gennaro in the head twice during a car ride. His motive? Chillingly simple. He wanted to know what it felt like to kill someone. After committing the murder, Jared attempted to flee, hitchhiking toward Canada. He was picked up by an officer who quickly recognized him from an APB description. Jared was brought in, and what followed is one of the most haunting interrogations ever recorded. The detectives didn't need to apply pressure. Jared simply laid it all out, with the cold, emotionless detachment of someone describing a shopping list. "What do you remember telling me?" the detective asked. Jared replied without hesitation, "That I'm guilty of murder." The detective continued, "Who did you murder?" Jared calmly answered, "Gennaro." "And how did you murder him?" "With a gun. I shot him in the head. Twice." It wasn't just the speed of the confession that was so unnerving. It was Jared's complete lack of affect. No remorse, no fear, just cold, factual statements. As the interview continued, it became clear why. Jared was later diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a severe condition blending schizophrenia with mood disorder symptoms. His delusions had convinced him that killing was required, a compulsion detached from any normal sense of morality. Jared even explained how he had selected his victim. "I believed he would have the least impact," he said. "He didn't have many close friends. His disappearance would be less notable." Jared was found not guilty by reason of insanity and was committed indefinitely to a high-security mental health facility. His case remains one of the starkest examples of just how swiftly and eerily an interrogation can conclude when mental illness is the driving factor. Finally, we turn to a case where the lack of a confession was the most impressive. That of an unnamed 18-year-old suspect brought in after allegedly striking a police officer with his car. What makes this case so remarkable is how the young man handled himself in the interrogation room, showing a level of composure many seasoned adults would lack. As detectives began reading him his Miranda rights, the young man remained calm, listening attentively. When asked if he understood his rights, he replied, "Yes." Then came the critical question, "With these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to me now?" Without missing a beat, the young man replied simply, "I'm sorry, no." In that moment, the interview ended. The detectives, bound by law, had no choice but to cease questioning. This young suspect had done what so many others, even hardened criminals fail to do. He had asserted his rights perfectly. By declining to speak, he prevented himself from accidentally providing damaging.
As these cases show,
Interrogations can turn in an instant. For better or worse, Raymond Gates sealed his fate with a single careless sentence. Quantrill Schwarzlow's panic led to an ill-fated escape attempt. Ricky Hawthorne crumbled before the first cup of coffee had cooled. Jared Murray, driven by delusions, calmly confessed to one of the coldest murders imaginable. And one savvy teenager reminded us that sometimes the smartest move is to say nothing at all. In the world of criminal justice, these moments become case studies, teaching tools for detectives, cautionary tales for defense attorneys, and chilling reminders for the public of how fragile the human psyche can be under pressure. They underscore a truth every viewer of Dark Mirror crime knows well. In the interrogation room, seconds matter, and sometimes they matter more than hours ever could.